as a young broadcaster, I cultivated relationships with a lot of older, top-level experienced broadcasters, guys that were in Major League Baseball, the NBA, places like that, guys that have been doing it for 30 plus years. And so I would send them clips of my broadcasts, and
And they
the
loved
the
you
si-
all the time?
always without fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? When you first start sending your stuff out to more experienced people, what you're really hoping, I mean, you say, oh, I want your constructive feedback on this. What you're really secretly hoping is that they'll just say, this is amazing. You are the brightest prodigy and talent I have ever seen. And I did get some compliments, but I also got some constructive criticism. And yeah, that was tough to deal with at first. The system that I settled on after a while revolved around two words, and they sound a little pretentious by themselves, but I'll explain, and they're really pretty simple when you break them down. So I started going by triangulation and specificity.
Okay.
Triangulation and specificity. I'll
Okay. Okay. Those are big words. So
yes,
break them down. What's a triangulation? I can't.
that's all right.
Triangulation. I'm going to put that in my tongue twisters. Triangulation. Go
It's all
ahead.
right. I say it so you don't have to. Yes. So it was always interesting because broadcasting, sports broadcasting in my case, play by play, commentating on sporting events. It's similar to music and it's similar to voiceover in that it is very subjective for many people. And even when you're sending it out to very experienced people, different people will hear you very differently. And so I would sometimes get one random person who didn't like a clip and then three or four others who did. And I didn't quite know what to do with that. And so over time, I realized that if I sent out the same clip to 10 different experienced broadcasters, and at least three or four of them pointed out the same thing independently without talking to each other. They independently noticed the same thing in that same clip and said, hey, this is something that I think you should work on. I realized that was something that I probably needed to take seriously and work on. If it was just one random outlier, if everybody else liked something and one person said, I don't like that, well, I probably was going to generally disregard that because you can't please everybody. But if
Okay.
multiple people point out the same thing, then yes, that's probably something that you need to take seriously. And then the second one, specificity. So I remember my first spring training game that I broadcast for the Oakland A's back in 2014. And one of the things that I was really excited to do after I got done with that first spring training broadcast was go on one of the A's independent message boards, fan message boards, and see what the fans thought of my performance. And, which is probably not a smart thing to do, but actually most of the comments were nice and they were fine. But there was one guy, because you tend to just notice the negative comments, right? That's human nature. There was one guy who randomly said, I don't like the way he says the word Texas. Because the A's were playing the Texas Rangers that day. And this guy was like, he says Texas like there's a G in it. He says Texas instead of Texas. A, that's wrong. And B, that annoys me. And so I read this random comment from this random person on the internet, and at first I was kind of irritated because what a pedantic thing to be bothered about. I just broadcast my butt off for 4 hours in this very exhausting game, and this guy's mad how I said a single word. But then I thought about it, I was like, crud, he's right. I do say Texas with a G instead of an X. I realized I've been saying it that way my whole life. I never would have noticed if that random person on the internet hadn't pointed it out to me. So now, ever since then, I say Texas correctly, and I think of that guy every time I say the word Texas with an X. So sometimes, and the reason I was able to implement that was because it was very specific. That guy wasn't even directly addressing me, but he was extremely specific about what he was pointing out. And so sometimes, if somebody points out something specific, we can evaluate whether that's true or not, whether we need to make an adjustment. If that same guy had just said, I don't like him, his voice annoys me, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And that would be something to disregard. But if they're pointing out something specific, then maybe we can work with that.